Afternoon, guys. I'm Dave Canterbury with Reliance Outfitters and the Pathfinder School. And no, I'm not bucking for a sponsor from Coke. I just needed a drink. What I thought we'd do today, guys, is I'm out here in a public park, for lack of a better word. It's a Lions Club public area. They have picnics and things like that out here. And I came out here to shoot this video because I figured this is as good a place as any to surely find some things that were different. And the reason I wanted to find some things is because of our subject matter for today's video. We've talked a little bit about different hobbies that you can get into, and I would call them like C-note hobbies. So what can I get into for less than $100? And we talked about the gold panning and the sleuth and all of that, or the sluice box and all that stuff from Sluice Fox, and that was under $100. We talked about digging bottles, and obviously that's way under $100. And the other thing that you can do that kind of surrounds that whole treasure hunting, artifact hunting, relic hunting theme is to metal detect. So how do you get into metal detecting fairly inexpensively? Because most people think that metal detectors are very expensive, and if they're not, they must be junk. So I thought we'd discuss that a little bit today, because the metal detector that I have today for this video is called the Bounty Hunter 4. It's available on Amazon for less than $100. So between this and a junky shovel, you should be able to get into metal detecting for under $100. Now, if you want to invest in things that make your life a little easier, different types of shovels, pinpointing devices like the one that I'm using today, which is the Garrett AT Pro, those type things are going to run you a bit more money. However, you don't have to have them. The only real reason for having a pinpointer is, number one, to find out exactly where your target's at, possibly determine the size of your target, and really to alleviate digging a giant hole where you might only be able to dig something very small if you're in public areas or in someone's yard where you've secured permission to hunt someone's yard that has a house that was built in the 1800s or 1900s, something like that, and you want to detect the yard, or an empty lot for that matter that you've secured permission for. You don't want to tear that stuff up, so you want to dig smaller holes. A pinpointer will help you do that, but it's not necessary. And I can tell you that, a metal detector's job is one thing: find metal. And even a cheap one will do it very, very well. I'm going to show you that today. We're going to go out here and dig some targets and see what we can find. I'm not guaranteeing we're going to find anything special, but we'll find a lot of different things. We'll talk about some different ways of using this metal detector. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about this detector, and then we'll get into it a little deeper. Okay, so let's talk a little bit for a minute about identifying targets with your metal detector. Obviously, you have a detection coil at the bottom, and you swing that from side to side right at ground level, and it detects metal that's in the ground. Now, obviously, the more expensive the detector is, the better it's going to do that, the deeper it's going to detect objects, things like that. But this cheap one will do fine, as you're going to find out in this video. And it's going to emit a sound that's going to come from a speaker in this unit at the top. And you have several things on this unit that you can do, from adjusting iron discrimination a little bit to weed out some of the things you don't want to find, to the actual ground interference, weeding that ground interference or electrical interferences out of your metal detector when you start for sensitivity. Those two things are what you have adjustment for on this detector. Other than that, you really don't have a lot, but you really don't need a lot. You have a couple different settings here for, let me read them off to you real quick because I need my glasses to see them. You have one that says discrimination, you have one that says tone, and one that has all metal. All metal's in the center. All metal means this thing's going to detect anything in that ground, no matter what, as long as it's at a depth that the metal detector can read it. Discrimination means you have used your notch discrimination button here to weed out certain things you don't want to hear. It could be metal nails, iron objects, things like that that give a grunt sound, and you don't want those. So you're working in discrimination mode. You've turned that dial to discriminate against those objects. Once you found 3 or 4 of them, you're like, okay, I'm tired of digging up square nails. I'm going to discriminate those things out. You would leave one on the ground, run your detector over it, and move this until you've eliminated that sound, and right at that point, no more, and then move on. Now, obviously that's going to eliminate other things that may be made the same size and same material, which you may not want to discriminate out. And then you have what's called tone mode. And tone mode is what I'm going to use today. Tone mode is what most people that use detectors detect in. And tone mode gives you a different tone depending on the type of metal it is. So really at that point, all you have to do is you have to learn the tones of your personal detector, if you have a cheaper one like this. And then you can pretty much kind of pick out in your mind what's in the ground, so you don't have to dig every single target that you find. And so in general, the more ferrous objects like iron, rusted things like that are going to give you a very low grunty tone on this detector. And then as you get into higher quality metals or something that has a lot of conductivity, you're going to get a higher pitched sound. And sometimes you'll get mixes of the two, and that can help you discriminate in your mind what things might be. Pull tabs are really good at that, giving you that mixed signal of a high tone and a grunt. Pull tabs are classic for that. But there's still gonna be things that can fool you, and you're gonna see in this video, I get fooled quite a few times by things that have the sound of what could be a good coin and end up being a steel grommet that's still in pretty good shape, but nonetheless a steel grommet, and it gives a signal of a very high tone, like it might be a decent coin. More expensive detectors will allow you to look at a scale and kind of give you a little bit of, this is what the detector thinks it is. And then you can also change discrimination levels on that to take certain different tones out instead of just the bottom end, like you can with this detector. To get rid of iron, you can get rid of pull tabs and things like that on different detectors if you spend more money. However, there's been lots and lots of treasure and lots of relics found on cheap detectors just like this one. So don't think you need to go out and spend a bundle when you start a hobby, because it's a really good C-note hobby to get you out of the house, get you walking around, and it's something that you can use and enjoy without spending a lot of money to do it, and who knows what you're liable to find. Stay with me, let's go metal detecting. So you can see we got a fairly high pitch tone here. All right, so here we go. Tarp grommet. Something like that can give you signals very much like a coin. But you gotta dig a lot of trash to find the good stuff. You can hear that kind of a grunt. There's a little bit of a blip in there too. That's a pretty good sign you don't have a real good target down there. Unless you're looking for something rusty. You know, that non-really high tone and that rough grunt in there generally means with a detector like this, unless you're just looking for rusty stuff, it's not going to be a coin or anything really, really valuable like that. Silver, something like that. So anyway, just a matter of getting used to the sounds that these cheaper detectors make, because you don't have a lot of the settings that you have on the more expensive ones to isolate things better. But I can pretty much tell now, you know, whether something's going to be a decent target or not. The only thing that's fooling me right now are these grommets all over the place out here. Okay, you can hear that high tone, but you can hear that low grunt along with it. Jumping way up there on the scale, but I still bet money it's a pull tab or a grommet. There we go, pull tab. Now, one thing I have been doing out here is I have been using a pinpointer, which is something that you don't necessarily have to have. What a pinpointer really does is keep you from digging bigger holes. And because I'm in a public area, I'm trying to keep my holes just one shovel face flipped up and no deeper than that, so that they're very easy just to fold back over like I haven't even been here. And then I'm taking all the trash with me when I go. Okay, so here's a pretty clean high tone with no junk in the background, no low grunts. So it's either a grommet that's gonna fool me, or hopefully it's a coin of some kind. Another steel grommet. The thing had a really good high tone. Alma A stands, something like that. Alma A stands, Aluma stand, Louisville, Kentucky. There you go. Who knows? But the metal detector definitely found it. Probably an aluminum can. Pretty good sized target, it acts like. Here we go. Aluminum can bottom. I called that one straight up. About 4 inches deep out here in the grass. Whatever that is pegging the machine out. If I can find our first coin today, maybe. All right, there it is. Penny, not an old one by any means, but it is a coin. It shows you that this detector will find coins. Well, guys, I appreciate you joining me today for a video on another inexpensive hobby that you can do, especially during this time of social distancing. Get out and get yourself a cheap metal detector and go out and find some good treasure, relics, or just get some good exercise, whatever it takes. But I tell you, this is a rabbit hole you can go pretty deep into if you choose to, just like any other hobby, but it's not something that has to cost you a lot to get started, that's for sure. Like I showed you today, even a cheap $100 metal detector will find just about any different kind of metal that's in the ground. The only thing we didn't find today was any silver or gold. If they were there, we would have found them. There's no question about that. Guys, I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters and Pathfinder School. I appreciate your views. I appreciate your support. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for family, and for our business, for all our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends. I appreciate everything that you guys do for us. I'll be back with another video as soon as I can. Thanks, guys.